And tally ho there, champs, and welcome to the show. Today we're going to compare the Dell XPS 15 9560 2017 model against the new Touch Bar MacBook Pro 15-inch. Let's see which one's better. This will be a guide to help you decide which one you want to buy. And just to tell you the differences between the two, I'll just tell you the facts and then I'll chuck my 2 cents in here and there. So let's start with price. Dell XPS 15 starts at $999. The MacBook Pro starts at $2,399. There's a big difference there. Well, the lower end XPS 15 is an i3 and doesn't have a graphics card, so yeah, there is a bit of a difference there. But if you compare the 4K XPS 15 with 512GB SSD, 16 gigs RAM, and you compare it to the equivalent spec Mac where you have to add the 4GB 460 and get the best processor to try and match the Kaby Lake that's in the XPS 15, you're looking at $1,100 difference. Now, once upon a time, maybe at the end of last decade, Mac prices were justified because their laptops were made out of premium materials and they actually had the latest specs in their products. Now, you can't say that. They're using lots of old parts in the new MacBook Pro. Carbon fiber is a more premium material than aluminium, so there isn't actually no justification for the MacBook Pro price. And as far as price goes, the Dell XPS 15 is definitely the winner here. You're getting a much newer, better laptop for your money. So design, both are top quality design. They're both beautiful laptops. I can tell you now, the Dell XPS 15 is built tough. I've used the previous model over a year and it stood up to my pretty hard use. The MacBook Pro is gorgeous too. It's an all aluminium construction there and I really do love the space grey colour and the uniform thickness. The Dell XPS 15, I love when you open it up and you see that gorgeous Infinity Edge display and that carbon fibre composite deck. It's just a sight to behold. So size and weight, they're pretty much the same. The XPS 15 starts at £4 with the small battery and the MacBook Pro is £4. At its thickest point, the XPS 15 is 17mm, the Mac is 15mm all the way around, but at its thinnest point, the XPS 15 is 3mm thinner than the MacBook Pro. The XPS 15 is slightly wider because of that 16:9 aspect ratio screen, but it's not as tall as the MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro is taller or it's deeper, and that's because that has a 16:10 screen. And the XPS 15 is around 250 grams heavier when you add the big battery in. So in size, weight, thickness, they're much of a muchness. It's going to come down to personal preference, which one you like in the design stakes. But I will say, I don't think the MacBook Pro will be as tough as the XPS 15. And if you just go to Lewis Rossman's website, who actually repairs computers day in, day out, he has actually said, this is a quote from him, not from me, so go talk to him if you don't like the quote, that yeah, there are $500 plastic PCs built better than MacBook Pros. That's what he said. So just go check out his channel if you want to know what I mean. But I guess only time will tell if that MacBook Pro will stand up to the rigors of a professional's use. Moving on to ports, well, there's only one winner here. The XPS 15 has full-sized HDMI, has a SD card slot, 2 USB 3s, and it also has a Thunderbolt 3 port / USB Type-C. Now, Dell have actually nailed the I/O here. Compared to the MacBook, you just get 4 Thunderbolt ports. And if I was going to say something, I would say that most Mac people that don't like the MacBook Pro, and there has been a groundswell of like rage against the latest MacBook Pro, and I think that's the thing they don't like the most, that it just doesn't have any ports. It's just all Thunderbolt 3 ports, and believe me, it is annoying. Now there is some advantages having 4 Thunderbolt ports, and that's like in a rare usage case where someone might be using 2 4K screens and 2 Thunderbolt DASs with arrays of hard drives and SSDs. It's a very rare usage case, and it's a strange one to me because obviously someone that has that kind of setup has a lot of money, so you're better off just having a desktop and a laptop as well, rather than hooking up your MacBook Pro to an array of Thunderbolt devices and screens, etc. But definitely the MacBook Pro, it's got bandwidth coming out of its clacker there. So if you're not one of those people, you're definitely better off with the XPS 15's I/O there. Keyboard and trackpad, well, I'll say the Dell XPS 15 has the better keyboard, but this will be personal preference. I would say by and large most people don't like the MacBook Pro keyboard, but anyway. But when it comes to the trackpad, definitely the Mac has the best trackpad. The one on the XPS 15 is good, but it's still not as quite as good as the MacBook Pro there. Sound, now both of them are very loud. They're actually quite decent, both of them. The MacBook Pro does have the better sound. It's richer, it's fuller. It just is better quality sound coming from the MacBook Pro. But they are laptop speakers on both of them. Don't expect to be using your laptop to have a party. Now display, well, it's easy to give this win to the XPS 15. It has a high resolution screen, 4K, has a wider color gamut, has 100% Adobe RGB color gamut, gets plenty bright with 350 nits. It's also a touchscreen too. When it comes to touch bar versus touchscreen, I don't even use the touch bar. The touch bar annoys me. What was really annoying is I had to do 2 actions to do an action that would just take one press of the button normally. So, you can do with your touch bar. Now, the MacBook Pro screen is good too. Don't get me wrong there. It is a fantastic screen, but it's 2880 by 1800. It does get brighter than the XPS 15. I do have a video on comparing these 2 screens, so check that out. The brightness difference isn't as much as you'd think, but if you want a more in-depth video between the 2 screens, check out my review. And yeah, it's just easy to give this to the XPS 15. Wider color gamut, 4K, higher res, it just pops more, and it is the better screen. Performance, well, obviously the XPS 15 wins here. It's got the latest 7th generation Kaby Lake processor, has a GTX 1050, the latest generation 10 series graphics cards there, get up to 32 gigs RAM. The SSD speed is super fast. The MacBook Pros is slightly faster, but when you consider that the MacBook Pro has old DDR3 RAM, which is slower than DDR4 of course, and it has the old Skylake processor, and you can only get 16 gigabytes RAM with the MacBook Pro, it's just fair to say, without a doubt, the XPS 15 is the better performer, especially in the graphics department, and also Kaby Lake 2 is just much more efficient than Skylake. On Geekbench, I tested the 2.7 GHz MacBook Pro, and the Kaby Lake XPS 15 was like 24% faster there. And with graphics, like there's no contest here. The XPS 15 is much faster. I do have 2 videos, one about rendering speed comparisons between the old XPS 15 and the latest MacBook Pro. You might want to check that out, where the XPS 15 just renders much faster than the MacBook Pro. I also have a performance test between the MacBook Pro 15-inch and the last generation XPS 15, where you'll see that the old XPS 15 is much faster than the MacBook Pro, and you can just know that it's going to get a lot worse with this Kaby Lake model XPS 15, and I will do a performance review comparison between the 2. Also, I noticed when I was using Premiere Pro on the MacBook Pro 15-inch, I really struggled to play back 4K content without any effects applied. With the new Kaby Lake XPS 15, I could play back full content at full res with a LUT applied and color correction, and it was smooth. So there's a massive difference using it video editing. If you use the Mac products like Final Cut and stuff like that, you will get good performance out of the MacBook Pro, but there are similar PC video editing software that's even faster than Final Cut as well. So it's a bit limited in that regard. If you really want good performance out of the MacBook Pro, you really do have to be using the Apple apps. If you're going to be using it for Premiere and stuff like that, it's just not fast enough for that sort of thing. So when it comes to heat and noise, the Mac did get hotter. It does throttle a little bit. The XPS 15 and MacBook Pro, the noise they produce is more or less the same, but I did notice the MacBook Pro was hotter. So battery life, well, this is pretty even. The battery life between the 2, both about 7 hours. On the 4K XPS 15, you get about 7 hours. On the 15-inch MacBook Pro, I get about 7 hours battery life. Now, if you get the full HD version of the XPS 15, you'll get an extra 3 or 4 hours battery life. So you can say probably in the battery department, the XPS 15 does edge it. So my conclusion here is basically, unless you're living in the Apple ecosystem and you're using Apple product like Final Cut Pro, etc., you're much better to go with the XPS 15. And even if you were using those Final Cut products and stuff, it's definitely worth switching to the XPS 15 because you're getting a much newer, better computer for a lot cheaper. Newer parts with the latest graphics, the latest CPU, the latest 2400 megahertz DDR4 RAM, compared to the MacBook Pro where you're getting a lot of older parts. And when you compare the GTX 1050 compared to the Radeon 460 in the MacBook Pro, there is no comparison. The 1050 is much faster than the Radeon 460 graphics card in the MacBook Pro. It's just pretty much a slam dunk for the XPS 15. But if you're just a normal consumer and you don't have any pro needs or whatever, and you've got a lot of cash to burn, maybe the MacBook Pro might be for you. But if you're a pro and you want that 32 gigs RAM and you want that super fast performance, you have to go with the XPS 15. So thank you guys for watching. I've got lots more tech content coming soon, including much more shootouts with the XPS 15. Give me a thumbs up there if this video was helpful. And until next time guys, tally ho.